Hello, guys. Okay, I hope you hear me well. Okay, hello, everybody. Thanks all of you to join this session. When I talk, when I plan to talk regarding test automation for web and mobile web. So situations which people are facing for, also possible ways in order to achieve appropriate goals and results. Okay. Okay, a few words about me. I'm a Siarhei, lead test automation engineer with 30 plus years experience, primarily in Java, but also in Python, little bit GS. During this time, I worked with many frameworks, UI types, and approaches for testing. At the current moment, I work in Mobitru, which is a real device cloud platform when people can operate with remote real devices, perform some manual verifications, or execute their tasks, which usually based on Appium, Espresso, or XUI tests. Okay, here it is. So here's our agenda. As you can see, I plan to go through typical phases which usually happen when people need to choose how to run their auto test for mobile web automation. Of course, in some projects, it can be additional steps, but in general, people usually go this way in some particular order. During this session, you can leave your questions in the chat and I will answer them at the end in the Q&A section. Also, after this talk, you will be able to leave your feedback by following appropriate or by scanning the appropriate QR code. And then in this feedback, you'll be able to just share some or highlight some most interesting parts. Okay, let's start. Let's start from scratch. So one day on your project, people came to you and say, okay, we have a great news. Soon we will have a mobile version of our web application, which is tested by your scripts. Usually people call existing autotests or future autotest scripts. So these people continue. You already have autotest for desktop version, and we believe that it should not take a lot of time to cover the mobile version too. Because, there's almost the same. That's what people believe. According to this, we will have an additional team or engineer for such activity. But at the same time, your tasks have to check that everything is working fine. It's a kind of magic phrase which people will use a lot of time. That everything is working fine, you need to check. And at the end, they just leave you with such interesting task. The other situation when they initially told you that, okay, we will have web application and mobile at the beginning of the project, and you need to cover them both. In such case, you anyway will start from desktop version, which will be implemented initially. And at the end, you will face with the same situation which I mentioned before. when you will have your already existing desktop version tests, which written by some framework like Selenium or Selenium, any web automation framework. And then you will need to write and adjust your tests for mobile. Okay, from initial point of view, it doesn't look complicated. But then you realize that mobile world is really different from that you have on the desktop. You see that on different devices, OS, operating system, and their versions, you may have even different UI with different behavior. But again, as people say, you need to check that everything is working fine. And of course, you need to not only develop new or adapt existing tasks, but run them on a regular basis. So at the end, you will find several instruments or actually approaches which can be separated as device or non-device group. So let's review each of them. Device group, it's physical device located in your office, which looks like your own device farm, or it's physical device in some cloud, a real device cloud. Here you can operate with a real device and perform all necessary verifications. The second group is simulators or emulators, which are available with browsers inside, and also mobile emulation. It's in fact most recent functionality which available now in regular browsers like Chrome, when you can just specify some parameters and receive mobile-like UI or actually emulation in your browser. And let me show you some interesting example regarding what I say. For example, here is our landing page. It looks like simple page with several controls, just few links, one button, the main button, just several switchers with video, and you can scroll, and contact us form. That's pretty simple page. But if I will go to some mobile, by the way, it is our UI where it's possible to access to real devices. Okay, let me just open our landing page. And here it is. You see that it's different UI. Even for the same simple page, you see that it is kind of different UI. There is no button. Also, if I will scroll down, it will be kind of different behavior for switchers between functionality. Video is still there, but it's some different format. So it means even for simple pages, you may receive really different situation on mobile device. And also kind of different. It looks same, but it may be some different behavior when you will need to operate with such kind of page here inside. Okay. So again, such kind of task like preparing web tasks for mobile, it looks like simple, but at the end, you face with a real different world with specific cases, situations, which should be also handled. And at the end, again, you need to check that everything is working fine. So, okay, let's review each of these options. And let's start from some most obvious way. So people can say, the same people can say, okay, just use a real device if you really want. If you need to check something on real device, okay, everything is here, just start to use it. And in case of manual verification, it is much more easy because you can test on your own device. Also, you can ask colleagues to verify some particular area, or even ask your partner's phone in order to check something. But in case of test automation, you have no such option. You cannot use your own device because it should be connected to some machine, should be prepared. Of course, you can ask to provide you several devices and start your own device farm. But it will take time, real time, and it will take, which is more important, it will take more time in the future for maintenance, setup, support, maintain all versions, browser versions, operating system versions. Also, you can ask to provide a subscription for some real device platform or cloud. And actually, it's a very good point if you don't want to spend time on test execution preparation. At the same time, using of mobile platforms take additional costs, which is sometimes really difficult to explain because people just say, okay, we started pretty good. You had your desktop tasks and we execute them in infrastructure which is almost free. When you have just started Selenium somewhere in Linux or in Docker under same Linux, and it doesn't cost us something really, just additional VM. And according to this, sometimes it's hard to explain why we need to have such, why we need to pay for such additional subscription. But in the end, only real device can provide maximum guarantee that everything is really working fine. So I mean, only on a real device you can check it really with maximum guarantee. And let me show you some interesting example in order to prove it. Okay, here is my simple test, which is written in Java, and just use Appium framework. It can be used any framework which support interaction in mobile, like Selenium, Selenite, Fluentlenum, etc. So in this test, I will just open our landing page and check that this one switcher is working fine. So I can click the option and see that page is scrolled, option is active, and the video is loading. Okay, and let me just start the test on one of the latest device. I mean, latest with according to operating system. Okay, test is start. Now you will see that it will start on the device. Okay, let's review the execution. Okay, here is our browser, and as you can see, Appium is loaded. Yeah, and landing page is loaded. Looks like everything pretty similar. Also, as you can see on the iPad, we have, it's also a mobile device, but we have different behavior, which looks like desktop on the iPad. That's also interesting thing, because you may receive different kind of behavior on different type of mobile devices. So the variation is not only related to operating system or, okay, our tests. It's not only related to operating system or even version of it, but also to device type. So here we received all tests pass. On the iPad, latest operating system version, everything is working fine. But let's start the same tasks for the same type of device, iPad, but on some earlier operating system version. Yeah, here it is. It's also iPad Pro. The same task. We just opened Appium. Actually, the same version of everything. I mean, Appium Leap, tasks, etc., and framework. As you can see, there is no video here, and also scroll is working fine, but option is not active. So even for the same device type and the same tasks with the same version of framework, we may receive some different really behavior, wrong behavior on just other device type and other maybe operating system version. And here it is. As you can see, 6 of my tasks failed because menu is not active. So again, as I said, in fact, only on real device you can really check it, and then I will show you actually, and you will see that on some other options it is not possible even to check some to catch such kind of issues. Okay, let me just switch to next one option. All right, some people can look at the price. I mean, for example, price of subscription or price of setup on device farm and say, okay, so you use some framework and you can work with some Appium, which started somewhere in, for example, on Linux machine on some inside our infrastructure, and it can operate with simulators. And people just believe that simulators, if it's something which looks like device and cost free, especially people told you that, okay, you can take official emulators and simulators. So please just try. It's official, it's free, and you can use it. And in fact, you even don't operate with some mobile specific features like geolocation, for example, like network issues or some other mobile specific features. So, okay, they say just try to use emulators and simulators because you just need only browser inside, and they believe that you will have the same. And you start to look at this, and from the initial point of view, it looks really not so difficult. because you have documentation, you have really okay officially provided emulators or simulators. You just have a lot of feedback or really documented story about using of the emulators or simulators. But then let me show what you will have or what you will face. Okay, here is the same task. Also, here is latest Appium, which is started locally. And also, let me just start my activity monitor. And you see here is what is memory use and what is the CPU consumption. And let me just start the same tasks on iOS simulator, which will represent our device where we received some error, I mean, incorrect behavior. Okay, let me just start my test. It's the same task. Again, you see the test looking for simulator. So from the initial point of view, it looks simple. Just start Appium, well-documented commands. Also, Appium automatically will look for device, and if it's not present, start emulator. Here is it, emulator, iPad, version, the same major version of iOS, which we had on our iPad Pro. I mean, the Appium will even install automatically all necessary software on the simulator. But at the end, you see the memory consumption. It increases. For the one simulator, it's more than 1 GB. Also, as you can see, it can be some problem with loading. Okay, it's loaded. I mean, some network access. Also, as you can see, video is here. Video is here. And some other behaviors like change active state for option is also working fine. Again, this is the same Safari version, the same major version of iOS, but it's a simulator. And you see the memory consumption. It was 23, 24 GB. And when test finished, it decreases to almost 10% for my huge capacity. Similar here, it was, you can see on the chart, the load. And this is the only one simulator. So according to this, yeah, all tests fine. So we didn't catch the bug. Also, as you can see, even for one emulator, it took a lot of resources. Other one point, which you can see here, it's execution time, which is quite big. It's more than 2 minutes here. Because in the cloud, it was kind of 40 seconds, even for fail case. So it's twice more than you can receive on a already prepared real device platform, for example, or even your own device farm where all devices in appropriate state. Of course, you can say, okay, I can just start emulator and leave it as is, like we have now. But in this case, please remind that you will have a lot of resources consumed, especially if you need to run a lot of tasks in many threads. And in this case, this consumption will be even more. So you will need really powerful infrastructure, which will be not almost free. Okay, and also one other point is related to Android. Let me just open Android emulator. Okay, for example, just let's start some tablet emulator. It's official from Google emulator for Nexus 7. And here it is. And let me just try to run my tests on such emulator. And let me just, okay, start execution and see what will happen in our Appium. Again, memory consumption, you see, it's +1 or 2 GB RAM. And which is more interesting, let's review what we have in our log. I mean, log of Appium desktop. Also, as you can see, which is good point, Appium automatically terminates some sessions or prepare something which is related to managing of already arranged resources. Okay, so anyway, Appium started some necessary preparations. And here is the error. Let me stop execution and I will show you. So you see that it is some error in the Appium browser, in the Appium log. And why? Why it's really happened? When you will try to look at emulator, you will see, okay, let me just show you. You will see that there is no Chrome here. If I will even try to ask, yeah, there is no Chrome here. So even in the official Android emulator from official manufacturer, you will not see appropriate the same browser and appropriate browser version. Because in fact, it's just emulator, which just help you to receive similar, really similar situation like on your mobile device, but without even simulate the device. So it just looks like device, but it is not, and it is even not trying to be like device. But you can say, okay, what if I will install the Chrome? And also it is an option. But let me just show you what can happen. Okay, the same test, Appium, let's leave Appium. And let me just start, yeah, here is it. Let me just stop some previous emulator. And I already have prepared emulator where I installed Chrome. It's emulator of the device with the Chrome inside. Here is it. Okay. Okay, one moment, please. Let me just rerun it. Okay, here is it. Connect later. And you see the CPU and memory is still high when I just run emulator without even running my tests. So for Android, the situation with emulators is much more different. I mean, in case of just using already prepared cloud with real devices somewhere and try to start emulator for Android, you will have more memory and CPU consumption. So, okay, here's the Chrome. Let me start the same test again. Here's our Appium. So what I did actually, I just downloaded Chrome APK and installed it on the device, on the emulator. And let's see what we will have. Okay, looks like test started and it found Chrome, I mean the Appium. And let's see what will happen here. Okay, the session looks like found what is necessary, and it is in fact the same task for the same landing page and the same frameworks is here. Let's also review memory. You see, it's even 2 GB. And the CPU you also can see. And again, it is one emulator only. Okay, it is processing. You may see, okay, why it's so slow? And it is one other point that, for example, in case of iOS simulators, it runs really much more fast in compare with Android, where you can have really problems with performance. Okay, it's crashed. And let me show you what actually was received, what kind of error. And you see, unknown server error occurred, and Chrome is not reachable. And why? And the general problem that you cannot download some general APK and install it on your emulator because you need to manage everything like actually on your own device farm, because here emulator with particular Android version, and you will need to download Chrome APK directly for this version, install it and check that everything is okay. If not, you will need to download or try to find appropriate APK. Then try it here, check that everything is working fine, etc. So you will need manually to manage all of these things if you want to receive worked Chrome on Android emulator. Also, last one thing, which is related to Android emulators, because people say, also mentioned before, that okay, the manufacturer provide official emulators and simulators, and for iOS, it's you may have a lot of simulators for a lot of versions, but for Android, let me just show you this. You see, I'm trying to create a new emulator, and here's only Pixel devices here, Pixel on Nexus. So there is no Samsung here. And other one point that some really popular manufacturer like Samsung or Huawei, they don't provide officially in most popular IDE or device management system, they don't provide official emulators. And it is another one point, because they have not only pure Android, they have own system, like in case of Samsung. And anyway, you need to check here and make sure that everything is working fine, but you cannot receive right now free officially this emulator. Okay, let me back to my slide. Again, as you can see, what is kind of bottom line? It looks like similar. I mean, using emulators or simulators, a lot of documentation, everything working fine, automatically, but then you will face with a lot of limitations, like resources, lack of emulators, and no Chrome even on official emulators. And anyway, at the end, as I mentioned before, even in the official emulators, you may miss some bugs because this is not real device. This is not fully real device. Okay, let me just review last one option, mobile emulation. So people can also say, we understand you. You came, for example, with all of this speech, show examples, and their answer is, we understand you, but sorry, we barely handle all of our existing infrastructure and costs. So can you reuse something existing or just take a free solution, which should not take additional maintenance? And this case, you can remind that, okay, we already have some dedicated Selenium hub, or we just test, even just execute our test locally for local Chrome. And the Chrome browser has really good feature, which called mobile emulation. And it sounds really promising because you don't need to prepare something, starting all of this Appium, etc. In fact, you will need to just a little bit modify a code, and I will show you how. But sad fact that it is almost not related to mobile. So yes, you have similar screen size and maybe user agent, but everything are not available. And it extremely increase risk that one day your CEO will come and say, why I cannot open some page on my iPad? And it will be difficult to argue that, oh, we checked it. Because in fact, if you will use this way, you executed your tests only in Chrome, not even in some mobile browser like Safari. But anyway, let me show an example. Here is the mobile emulation execution, my configuration, and here is how it can be configured. So you see, it's kind of my option, and everything what you need to do, in fact, just specify mobile device name. I just pick one from preset, which provided officially by Chrome, and just enable experimental option in my start Chrome driver options. And then Chrome will do everything. So let me start my test, which you will see that will run really fast without so huge resource consumption. It just, in fact, one other Chrome. And you see, yeah, it started. Screen size is similar to what we had on the iPad, but in fact, anyway, yeah, it runs fast, similar to mobile platform. But at the end, again, all tests pass, and we receive it. Everything is working because, again, it's not even Safari, it's just Chrome with particular user agent and maybe screen size. Everything is like on the web desktop version. Okay. Here is the overall situation for all kind of options and criteria. So please keep in mind what I actually can say. So please keep in mind that every criteria has own weight here. And some yes could be like, yes, but it's nice to have. So it is not strong yes. So it means in some cases or for some project, this yes may be not so important for a lot of people. The same for no. So it can be like strong no in some cases for some areas or projects. In some projects, people can understand that, okay, it's this limitation or we have no it, but okay, we can live with it and receive our appropriate result. At the end, anyway, please remember that it is very important to realize all benefits and difficulties before moving forward to start using of some solution or option. Because it will be hard to change something in the future. It will be really hard to explain why, for example, you need mobile cloud subscription when you already spent resources, time, some VMs or other hardware in order to set up your own simulator, for example, set of simulators, or even your device farm. Or it will be hard to explain, okay, why we cannot still use our mobile emulation, because it looks like everything is working fine. But then you face it that some bugs came from prod, etc. Okay, as a result, what I can say? I can say that there is no silver bullet in case of test automation instruments or options or solution for mobile web. I cannot say, okay, just use one option and it will solve everything and will match any project. No, I can't say this. As you can see, each of option, each of them has some real pros and real cons. On the slide, you can see general advice, but let me provide some real examples for every option. Let's start from on device farm. So in case of huge company with long-term project and functionality of this project is related to very sensitive areas, and also this company has complicated access management system, which it takes a lot of time to provide an access to internal resources of environment. Also, at the same time, test automation team is kind of 5-6 persons, same technology stack, and also it is possible to have additional support from DevOps. In this case, it will be really useful. And example of such companies is kind of bank software, financial software, like cryptocurrencies or stock exchange, etc. Where it's extremely important to check that really everything, every button is working fine in huge number of devices. And it's hard to receive some access to some resources, some check something outside of the VPN or some huge internal security network. And also company realize this and can organize everything which related to setup of own device farm. For remote device in cloud, the also huge or even medium company with long-term project where the mobile version of web app has important functionality which should be tested on multiple languages or locations or device types. Also medium or even small automation team, 2-3 engineers with even mixed tech stack. Best examples for this are some search engines, educational platforms, some newspapers or mail services, where it's extremely important to check that also everything's working fine, and it's extremely important to check that okay, we have all our text in appropriate places, we have everything is working, switching, video is playing fine, and we have no some problems at the end or in our pages, because a lot of people will see emulators or simulators. Another one option. So it's medium or small companies with average project time like half a year or thing like that. It's not so long project. The app has important functionality which should be checked on the mobile actually. It's kind of main requirements, even on simulator. Medium or small test automation team, 2-3 engineers with mixed on your similar tech stack, but company doesn't want to spend much time on testing efforts. Again, because of time, because they have only small amount of time in order to release the project. Examples for this, some kind of local small stores or food services. I mean, also local food services, which they actually need mobile version, but one time shortly and not so expensive. For emulation, it also present one example. So it can be medium again or small company with short project time, really short, where general requirement for where people use mobile emulation. The general requirements for such kind of project, okay, we have main functionality which must work fine without real critical issues. In this case, it can be kind of small QA team, like one manual QA and one test automation engineer per one web application. Tech stack can be the same, but people actually have no time for any additional activities. So best example for this is kind of gambling software or websites, where people realize that, okay, on some devices, some buttons may not work, like sound button, tooltips, or things like that. But anyway, people will came and play in our website. And we okay that some bugs will be here, but for us, which is really critical, that general functionality, our game will work without any issues. And in this case, okay, people, it is possible to use emulations and it will be kind of best fit. So as you can see, any of option can live and really live in our real world and can be applied to some projects. By this reason, again, you need to go through some of these advices. You need to apply them in your project in order to understand, okay, what will be best for you. Okay, I believe now we'll have our Q&A section.
Yeah, thank you, Sergey, for very interesting talk. I quite sure that all of our participants enjoyed it, and very interesting demo and some examples from your side when our guests can use this or that approach. So, and we have several questions on our VR community platform. So let me go through them. And guys who are watching us, please welcome to ask questions in YouTube or our VR community page. So the first question is it better to use a remote cloud service for mobile test automation instead of Appium on our machine if we want speed, scalability, security, and performance mobile testing?
So, I can say it is better if your project is okay to pay for it, because anyway, yeah, using of remote cloud service, it's good in case of let them, I mean, people in the cloud service, they will prepare everything, they will prepare documentation, they will use own hardware, and they will do everything. And all what you need, just be like a client, connect and run your tests. So in case of performance, speed, and scalability, it will be better. But as I mentioned before, the general point is a price. So in case if your project can pay for it, okay, it's better. If you want to run your test more fast, if you want to have good scalability, just run your test today for 5-10 devices, tomorrow for one. Okay, it's better to use remote cloud service. But if your project, and by some reason cannot afford some subscription or paying some remote cloud services, okay, anyway, you can use your Appium locally, but you need to realize all limitations which I showed during this session.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense. The next question is, when you say that the emulator looks like a device but different, what do you mean exactly?
So yeah, because emulators, if you will just run it like I did before, you will see that emulators looks like device. I mean, okay, it's kind of the same screen size. You see similar to device UI inside with a list of apps, with kind of icons related to network or Wi-Fi. But at the end, it's everything, all of this kind of fake. So it's not real. And it's just in case of Android and emulators, we are not talking about simulators, because simulators in case of iOS, they just trying really to simulate a real device. In case of Android, they just mimic like just say, okay, here's looks like device, but anyway, inside we don't use something which is real, related to real device. We just don't want to implement everything which is related to device. We don't have some real device environment with all kind of applications, options like accessing to Play Store, etc. Because the emulator, I mean Android emulator, even has no Play Store app. So you need to install everything manually. Download APK, drag and drop, and then install. So anyway, in case of emulator, you have really something which is similar to mobile emulation to Chrome. So it is even not it even don't try to be like device, because in case of simulator they just try to be like device. Okay, we have everything here. You can log in under your Apple ID, receive something, some applications, check some profile, apply some your profile, or others, change some settings, etc. In emulator, that you just have, okay, it's like mobile emulation in Chrome, but in particular application inside your IDE, like Android Studio.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. And one more question is, are there any foundational frameworks available for initiating mobile automation, specifically as design patterns? These frameworks would serve as a starting point, allowing developers to build upon them and establish a solid foundation for their projects.
So, yeah, thanks for the question. What I can say, in fact, there is no specific. What I can say, there is no specific standards for automation of the mobile web like we have for native application. For native, it's kind of Appium. It's become a standard. But for mobile web, you can use any framework which allow you to operate with mobile web, with browser. And I really suggest to use the same framework like you have for desktop version of your app. So if you have, and you will probably have existing tasks which written for desktop version, just reuse it for the mobile, because it really should work. Anyway, what will be a real difference? It's kind of place where you will execute your task. So anyway, here, like for me, desktop frameworks just lead the whole process, and in this case you just need to use frameworks which are already famous or standard. I mean, in case of mobile web, you can use frameworks which are standard for for desktop web versions. So it's like Selenium, Selenite, Fluentinium, etc. So you can use them. At the same time, okay, if you already have in your project some Appium library, I mean, imported to your project, and for example, you have native application and only mobile version. It's really a real case, but even in this case, you can use Appium for interacting with mobile version of your application. So anyway, there is no, as I say, as a resume, there is no some standard, real former standard for mobile web automation in case of frameworks. In fact, you can reuse any frameworks which can operate with desktop, with any web actually.
Yeah. So again, we need to take into account several factors, right? And project specific. And what
Yeah, of
exactly
course,
you want
of
to
course,
cover by
of course.
automation, right? Yeah. Cool. Next question we have got from YouTube from Yuri. How's EPAM mobile farm doing so far? How popular it is among EPAM clients, and what are its pros and cons in comparison with competitors? So it's not maybe
Yeah,
directly related to with our topic today, but it will be interesting, I think, to hear your opinion.
yeah, it's no problem. I can answer. So for now, Japan Mobile Farm it became MobiTrue, is rebranded. It's separate brand which can be accessed even from internet. You don't need to be inside EPAM, for example, network. So any person can go to our landing, then click get access, try to log in, and try our cloud. Regarding usage, so we have we are in really good shape. So more and more users started to look at our platform in order to use it, and we have many of features which is added now, and even is not present in several of, for example, our competitors, like example of feature like support of Appium 1 plus Appium 2, when sometimes for people it's extremely important to check some Flutter functionality using the Flutter driver. And in fact, the Flutter Appium driver works really fine only in the Appium 2. And in our platform, you can do it, but it's not supported, for example, for many of other competitors. No. I believe anyway, for receiving more information, uh, you can go to our landing, to our docs page. So we have several separate page which related to documentation and a lot of details. You can go to docs.mobitrue.com and receive all details, all information.
Thank you, Sergey. And we have one more question. Probably it will
Mhm.
be the last for today's session.
Yeah,
What industrial standard toolkit and framework architecture are for establishing mobile testing process? Again, it is very similar that we have discussed, but maybe just to summarize one more time.
yeah. So, in fact, uh, if you are in fact, we have two kind of solutions which is based on the same architecture. I mean, really, a lot of usage for these kind of solutions. It's free and easy to use. First of all, it's related to web. It's all Selenium-based solutions like Selenium, Fluenium, Selenium, etc. So this is related only to web. So it can be also used for mobile web, but not for native. Other one, also you will have kind of limitations in case of start your test or performing some complicated actions related to gestures or things like that. I mean, in case of Selenium. Other one point is related to Appium. Appium and all related libraries, I mean, related to Appium, like in JS, it's WebDriver IO. In fact, inside, it's also kind of Appium. I mean, they use Appium. In this case, it's okay only for mobile. So you can run your test for native, you can run your test for mobile web, but in case if you want to have something, I mean, some desktop tests, it will be a problem. You will anyway need to use Selenium or things like that. Because yes, inside Appium they have Selenium, but if you will try to use it independently, you will probably have issues. So as you can see here, mobile web can be used even for Appium for both kind of these solutions, which is again regarding architecture. These solutions just use client-server architecture. When you have something server, it's like Appium server, which has started locally, or the same way can be started Selenium server. You communicate with it, and then receive the result operating with browsers or real native applications. At the same time, here is the real difference as a bottom line. In one case, you have mobile web and native application in case of Appium, and other way for Selenium based, you have web desktop and web mobile.
Okay, thank you. So for so detailed answer one more time, and so we haven't got any other questions from audience. So I think we can finish up. Um, um, so if you want to contact Sergey, you can see uh, details on your slides. And guys, if you liked our event, so please go to our VR community page. You can scan this QR code and leave uh, a badge for Sergey and set a rating. And if you want to get more information about our upcoming events and past events, and about, please welcome to join our social networks. All of this you can get by scanning this QR code. So, and I think that's it. Sergey, do you have anything to be raised for today?
I believe this is it. The last one point. So, like for me, guys, don't afraid to try any of these options, because in your case, you will see that in fact everything is work. But just try it by yourself before you will face with real project, and then you will better understand, okay, what will fit for you. You will understand, okay, how it's difficult or maybe not. And in this case, at first you will receive some experience, and then you will receive, you will have information which will help you to start successful test automation in the early stage as it possible.
Yeah. So, guys, please try to use something new. Don't afraid of this, and get knowledge, new knowledge, and new experience, and what lessons you can learn from it. Thank you, Sergey, one more time for coming to Pro Quality community. Thanks, everyone, and have a good the rest of the day, guys. See you on our future events in Pro Quality. Bye bye.